On the morning of August 26, 2023, two distressing 911 calls set in motion a series of events that led to a deeply disturbing discovery. The first call came from a concerned woman in Carolina, who was apprehensive that her 22-year-old son, Alexander Lewis, might have caused harm to his 19-year-old girlfriend, Zaiylah Bronson, residing in Wichita, Kansas. Shortly after, a second call was received, this time from Alexander himself, where he confessed to strangling Zaiylah. When officers located Alexander's vehicle, they found Zaiylah in an unconscious state. Despite attempts to resuscitate her, she was tragically pronounced dead at the scene. The haunting question that persisted was why Alexander Lewis would commit such a heinous act against his own girlfriend. The answer to this question would ultimately reveal the grim reality of domestic violence deeply embedded in our society, raising yet another alarming question: where does the safety of women stand in our society? Today's story takes us to Wichita, Kansas, a city distinguished as the largest in the state, serving as a vibrant center for culture, commerce, and innovation. Often referred to as the air capital of the world, Wichita is renowned for its thriving aviation industry, housing major aircraft manufacturing companies. The cityscape is adorned with numerous cafes, making it an ideal place to unwind on a leisurely afternoon. However, like any other place, Wichita faces its share of challenges. The city is no stranger to extreme weather conditions, limited entertainment options, and traffic congestion. Yet, the most concerning issue lies elsewhere. Wichita has unfortunately been ranked among cities with some of the highest crime rates in the United States. Tragically, 19-year-old Zaiylah Bronson became a victim of these statistics, and her troubles did not originate from the city at large but within the confines of her own home. Zaiylah Bronson was welcomed into the world as the first child of Stevie and Taraza Bronson on September 13, 2003. At the time, her father, Stevie, was stationed at the Fort Campbell military base on the Kentucky-Tennessee border. Just a year later, Zaiylah embraced her role as the proud older sister when her little sister, Zakaria, entered their lives. When Zaiylah turned 4, they were blessed with the arrival of a younger brother, Savion. The Bronson family later relocated to Kansas, where Zaiylah was still in elementary school. Enrolling at Lansing High School, Zaiylah was far from an ordinary student. She was truly exceptional. Her excellence extended to both academics and athletics. During her high school years, she actively participated in track and became a vital part of the powerlifting team. Her achievements in these sports led her to earn numerous medals for her team. Zaiylah's academic progress was equally impressive, culminating in her graduation 1 year ahead of her peers. In 2021, Zaiylah embarked on her academic journey at Wichita State University, where she focused on mathematics. She resided alone in Wichita, while her parents and 2 younger siblings remained approximately 3 hours away in Leavenworth. Despite living independently, Zaiylah maintained a strong and loving connection with her family. She made it a point to reach out to at least one of them every day, ensuring their close bond remained unbroken. Whenever she had 2 consecutive days off, she eagerly made the trip to visit her family, cherishing those precious moments together. Spending quality time with friends and family was without a doubt one of her favorite things to do. Those fortunate enough to be close to Zaiylah would paint a picture of her as a vibrant and spirited young woman filled with dreams, aspirations, and a heart brimming with love. Her generosity knew no bounds. She'd willingly give her last penny to someone in need, always accompanied by a warm and welcoming smile. It was her extraordinary kindness that shone as one of her most exceptional qualities, earning nothing but admiration and affection from those around her. Among the many who held deep affection for Zaiylah was her godmother, Don Wilson. They first crossed paths when Don worked alongside Zaylah's father at a prison. The connection they formed spoke volumes about the kind of person Zaiylah was. Apart from her dedication to her studies and sports, Zaiylah showcased her talent in the realm of singing. She had a deep love for music, especially gospel songs, and often exhibited her beautiful voice as a gospel artist in Wichita. Among all her endeavors, one of Zaylah's most heartfelt passions was being the best dog mom to her beloved black mini poodle, her only companion, while she was away from friends and family. By 2023, At the age of 19, Zaiylah seemed to have it all figured out. She had completed her first year at WSU and was excited to begin her second year, on her way to becoming a math teacher. She had also found love in 22-year-old Alexander Lewis, who was part of the U.S. Air Force. Zaylah's family liked him, finding him smart and well-spoken. However, the most unexpected surprise came in early 2023 when Zaiylah discovered that she was expecting a baby. She shared this news with her mother, revealing her pregnancy at approximately 6 weeks along. After a doctor's appointment, Zaiylah excitedly arrived at her mother's house, displaying a bag filled with various items. She explained, "Look, Mom, the doctor gave me these," while proudly revealing the contents. Initially, her mother saw blankets and assumed they were for her dog, but as she continued to inspect the items, she came across diapers. The family was taken aback by the news due to Zaylah's young age, but they were all eagerly anticipating the arrival of the new family member. As the year progressed, Zaiylah had more good news to share with her family. She excitedly talked about her new car and her recent job as a manager at City Trends, a clothing store. However, her primary focus remained on her unborn baby, a boy she learned was due in February 2024. Though the topic of the baby's name came up during the last conversation Zaiylah had with her mother, she wanted it to be a surprise. While a name had already been chosen, only Zaiylah and Lewis, the child's father, were privy to the secret. Tragically, Zaylah's loved ones would never have the chance to discover the chosen name. Shortly after 11 a.m. on Saturday, August 26, 2023, North Carolina authorities received a 911 call from the concerned mother of Alexander Lewis, whose identity was kept confidential for privacy reasons. She reported that Lewis had told her he fatally harmed his 16-week pregnant girlfriend, Zaiylah Bronson, in Wichita, and she was deeply worried about the situation. As the Wichita Police Department learned about the incident from their counterparts in North Carolina, they received a call from Alexander Lewis himself. He confessed to having been involved in a physical altercation with his girlfriend during which he had strangled her. He also revealed that the incident had taken place at her residence, and she was now with him. These two distressing calls prompted Wichita police officers to respond to two different locations. They initially went to Zaylah's apartment at 3945 East 17th Street North, apartment 1107. After searching the residence for Zaiylah, they found it unoccupied. Following a record search of Lewis's cell phone number, Officer Fields discovered that Lewis lived in apartment 101 at 7677 East 21st Street in Wichita. The officers repeatedly knocked on apartment 101, and Lewis eventually answered the door. After his arrest, the officers inquired about Zaylah's whereabouts. Lewis responded, "I got scared. I was over at her place. I didn't know what to do. My keys are on the box in the living room. She's in my car." The officers sought clarification, asking if he meant the trunk of his vehicle, to which Lewis confirmed that he was. Officers retrieved Lewis's car keys from inside his apartment and opened the trunk of his 2009 black Kia Rio, which had North Carolina license plates. Inside the trunk, they discovered Zaylah's lifeless body covered with a white blanket. Although they couldn't detect a pulse, the officers began administering chest compressions in a desperate attempt to save her life while awaiting the arrival of paramedics. Tragically, around 12 p.m., Zaiylah was pronounced deceased, and her body was transported to the medical examiner's office. Within the vehicle's trunk, officers also found an axe and a shovel. On the floor of the front passenger seat, they came across a black backpack and a crumpled piece of white notebook paper. This paper contained an apparent note written by Zaiylah, which had been left unsigned and was addressed to her family. Inside the backpack, officers discovered a roll of duct tape, several bottles of water, clothing, a handheld flashlight, a head-mounted flashlight, multiple towels, and trash bags. On the front passenger seat, a black hooded sweatshirt with white markings was found along with a purse containing Zaylah's wallet, identification, and car keys. The news dealt a devastating blow to Zaylah's family. Her mother later recounted that on a typical Saturday, she had attended a women's gathering after a short shopping trip. Her day was proceeding normally until she received a phone call from her husband, who inquired about any contact with the police. Taranza vividly described her reaction, saying, "I immediately let go of everything I was holding, my purse and all my belongings, and just crumbled to the floor," fully aware that her daughter had been taken away from her forever. But why and how? The only individual with the answers was the person in custody. Inside the station of the Wichita Police Department, detectives conducted an extensive interrogation with Alexander Lewis after ensuring he was aware of his Miranda rights. They delved into the history of his relationship with Zaiylah, and Lewis revealed that their involvement spanned a year. However, he painted a different picture from the seemingly ideal romance perceived by others. According to Lewis, their relationship was far from perfect. He claimed that during their relationship, Zaiylah had cheated on him and interacted with other men multiple times, leading to issues in their relationship. Then, approximately 3.5 months before her death, Zaiylah discovered that she was pregnant with their child. Despite the instability in their relationship, she decided to carry their child to term. Lewis went on to provide an account of events from August 25, 2023. On that day, he had called Zaiylah at her workplace, during which she received an incoming call from an unknown male, who was overheard in the background. Lewis inquired about it, leading to a heated argument between them. Around 9:30 p.m. on the same evening, Zaiylah unexpectedly arrived at Lewis's apartment. The argument that had begun earlier that day was reignited, ultimately resulting in Zaiylah ending their relationship abruptly and leaving his residence after spending about half an hour there. Following her departure, Lewis described feeling stressed by the situation. However, Zaiylah resumed contact by sending him text messages. Among the messages, she expressed her intent to find another man who would be more attentive to her needs, along with a few other things, which Lewis interpreted as provocations intentionally meant to upset him. In previous arguments, Zaiylah had expressed frustration with them for not being more proactive and pursuing her. So this time, he said he decided to go to her apartment. According to Lewis, he arrived at Zaylah's apartment at approximately 10:30 p.m. with the hope of reconciling with her. Surveillance footage from Zaylah's apartment complex revealed that she returned home alone at 10:14 p.m. on August 25. Lewis arrived shortly afterward at 10:32 p.m. and was observed opening his trunk and rearranging its contents. He then lingered around the courtyard and the nearby stairwell before approaching the apartment door. Lewis said when he rang the doorbell, he found Zaiylah talking on the phone with another male, a sight that stirred intense feelings of distress within him. Lewis recounted that he and Zaiylah engaged in a prolonged argument that continued throughout the night, without either of them getting any sleep. He stated that she pushed him to a breaking point, causing him to feel overwhelmed by his actions. At 8:13 a.m. on the morning of August 26, 2023, Zaiylah briefly took a walk to the apartment courtyard, and Lewis joined her. This outing was confirmed by surveillance footage and marked the last time Zaiylah was seen alive. Upon their return to the apartment, the verbal altercation between Zaiylah and Lewis escalated further. They continued to argue while seated next to each other on the living room couch. Zaiylah, overwhelmed by frustration and wanting the argument to end, Lewis decided to take action. He admitted to grabbing her, describing the act as placing his left arm around her neck and supporting the top of her head with his right hand, subsequently applying pressure to her neck. When asked about the duration of this hold, Lewis said, "I don't know. All I felt was anger, and I was still talking to her. So I don't know how long." He remembered that during the encounter, Zaiylah attempted to resist by slapping his arm and was unable to speak until she ceased moving. While confessing to the act, he repeatedly emphasized that he never intended to take her life and never meant to harm her. In his account, Lewis admitted that panic overtook him following the incident. After realizing that Zaiylah no longer showed signs of breathing or had a pulse, he experienced a sense of panic. In a state of distress, he retrieved a blanket from Zaylah's bedroom and used it to wrap her lifeless body. He then carried her wrapped in the blanket to his vehicle and placed her in the trunk. This was captured on security cameras at 10:24 a.m., with Lewis seen carrying the blanket-wrapped bundle and Zaylah's feet visibly dangling, while driving back to his own apartment. He contacted his mother, who advised him to return home and contact the authorities. Following her counsel, Lewis left Zaylah's apartment and traveled back to his own residence. However, before reaching his home, he returned to her apartment to retrieve a beanie-style hat that he had left behind. Only after this did he return to his apartment and make the distressing call to 911. Lewis also addressed the presence of an axe and shovel in the trunk of his vehicle alongside Zaylah's body. He explained that he had purchased these items a few months earlier and had been storing them there for unrelated reasons. Although Alexander Lewis had confessed to the murder of his girlfriend and provided a detailed timeline, one thing didn't match his reasoning for the killing. He claimed he didn't mean to harm Zayylah and that rage overtook him. However, web searches on his phone told a different story. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Lewis's black Samsung cellular phone on August 28, 2023, and uncovered disturbing web searches. On the evening of August 25, 2023, Lewis had conducted several web searches related to stun guns, lethal weapons, and weapons that can kill. Furthermore, at 8:02 am on August 26, 2023, just 10 minutes before Zayylah was last seen on the apartment surveillance system, he searched for chokehold. As the investigation continued, additional web searches pointed to even more alarming topics. At 8:51 a.m. and 8:52 am, Lewis conducted searches related to snapping necks, after multiple searches regarding abortion. Finally, at 10:57 a.m., web searches resumed, this time focused on the topic of murder, with a last search recorded at 11:06 a.m. These findings cast doubt on Lewis's initial claims and raised serious questions about his intentions that fateful morning. The detectives' investigation led them to a chilling theory. They believed that Lewis, fearing the responsibilities of impending fatherhood and the challenges that presented to their already unstable relationship, took a horrifying and tragic step to eliminate what he saw as a problem. Sadly, his selfish act didn't just end one life, it led to the destruction of 3 lives. Zaylah's promising life was tragically cut short, and their baby boy will never see the light of day. Alexander Lewis is facing capital murder charges and is currently held at the Sedgwick County Jail on a $500,000 bond. Tragic incidents like this one inevitably leave a profound impact on the affected families. Zaiylah Bronson's family is now burdened with unanswered questions and the unbearable pain of losing their beloved daughter. Toronto Bronson, Zaylah's mother, can't help but wonder if she failed to recognize signs that something was wrong. Meanwhile, her godmother, Dawn Wilson, who herself is a survivor of domestic violence, is left questioning why Zayylah didn't have the opportunity to seek help before it was too late. These questions serve as a heartbreaking reminder of the devastation that domestic violence inflicts on both the victims and their loved ones. Dawn Wilson took it upon herself to start a GoFundMe campaign to help cover the funeral expenses, shedding light on the heartbreaking consequences of domestic violence. Despite the immense grief, the family planned a beautiful homecoming service to celebrate Zaylah's vibrant and outgoing personality. Dawn highlighted the challenging contrast between planning a baby shower for someone so young and arranging a funeral. She also expressed her belief that Zayylah may have already forgiven her killer, underscoring the difficult path to healing for survivors of domestic violence. In response to this tragedy, the Wichita Police Department has taken steps to provide resources and support for domestic violence victims, encouraging them to seek assistance. This case has brought to the forefront the pressing issue of domestic violence in the city, as evidenced by a 60% increase in women seeking shelter from their abusers over the past year, as reported by the Wichita Family Crisis Center. These statistics reveal a disturbing trend of such incidents in the region. However, the problem of domestic violence is not confined to Wichita alone. Research indicates that homicide is the leading cause of death for pregnant women in the United States. Shockingly, pregnant women in the U.S. are more than twice as likely to be murdered during pregnancy or shortly after childbirth than they are to die from the primary medical causes of maternal death associated with childbirth. These alarming statistics highlight the urgent need for comprehensive support systems, education, and awareness campaigns to address domestic violence on a national scale. The disproportionately high rates of domestic violence, particularly affecting African American women, highlight a pressing societal issue that demands urgent attention. To ensure the safety and well-being of women in dire situations like the one presented in this case, comprehensive and targeted measures are necessary. Regarding the true reason behind Alexander Lewis committing this murder, it is a complex issue rooted in the dynamics of domestic violence, power, control, and the fear of responsibility. Understanding these underlying factors is crucial for prevention efforts.